Hello everyone, I hope you're doing okay considering everything going on, and I know I've been saying that at the beginning of all my last videos with Corona, but now I really truly mean it. Not that I didn't before, but I really mean it now. I feel very awkward sitting here and filming because for obvious reasons I've been gone for quite a while. I moved across country, started a new job. I apologize the AC unit is loud. I apologize that these sunbursts in front of my face look kind of like anal beads are right in my face. But we're working in a new place and obviously I have not fully adjusted. I'm sure a lot of you are in the same boat where it's been a very eye-opening time to see how family members are reacting, how coworkers, and by reacting I mean obviously to everything going on in the world, Black Lives Matter, and it's just been very interesting to see how the people in my personal life and coworkers and heads of companies are reacting and the statements either they're putting out or the utter silence they're putting out. I've been trying to educate myself as much as possible, and because in this video I'm going to be talking about Black authors, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that anything I make from this video I am going to be donating to the Loveland Foundation, which I will link down below if you're interested. Which when I say that, I know that doesn't necessarily mean as much as a huge YouTuber who's making a lot more money from their own video, but I'll take whatever I make from this video and also add more on top of that and then donate. And on top of researching organizations and trying as best as I can to educate myself, I've been thinking a lot about the books that I read and the authors of those books that I read. I've mentioned this before and it is not an excuse, but I'm pretty lazy when it comes to this channel. I'm pretty lazy when it comes to the books that I read and how much I read, and on top of that I'm lazy when it comes to researching the books that I read. As you know, if you're watching this video, I mainly review thrillers and horror novels, and I started thinking about the fact that all of the top most popular thriller and horror novelists, when it comes to horror, a lot of them are white men. When it comes to thrillers, it's a lot of white women, and there are also a lot of white male authors pretending to be white female authors. I already have a video on that. And again, this is not an excuse, but when I'm doing my very minimal research to find new thriller and horror novels to read, I would generally just Google top horror novels of all time, top thrillers of all time, top 2019 thriller and horror novels. And if you look at a lot of those lists, it is mainly white people. You will see some Japanese authors, which I've read and reviewed and adored, but it's pretty rare you will see Black authors mentioned. And I want to apologize because it should not have taken everything going on for me to sit back and think I should really Google Black horror novelists, Black thriller authors. This is research I already should have been doing over the past years. I've been trying to find every article I can on Black authors who write horror novels and thrillers, and I'm gonna link all of those articles down below. You can open those up and see so many amazing books. I'm gonna be talking, I've read through all of them, researched each of the books, and I'm just gonna be highlighting the top 7, 8, 9, 10, I'm not really sure, that I'm personally really excited to read. And two things I want to mention. One, some of you might be surprised I don't mention Octavia Butler's name in this list, and that's because I'm focusing on books I want to read, and I've read, what was it called, Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler, and adored it. She is also a little bit more on the sci-fi side of things, but anyway, if you haven't checked her out, I highly recommend her. And the other disclaimer is the next video I already have planned is going to be talking about two books I read at the beginning of quarantine a couple months ago that I despised, that are very popular, so that will be my next video. So if my next video isn't talking about some of these books, I promise that it's not that I've suddenly forgotten and just made this video for the sake of it. Okay, that was enough chatting. Let's go ahead and get into some of the books that I want to read and that I hope you guys, if you have not already, will check them out with me. First is White is for Witching by Helen Oyeyemi. When I was reading the first line of the book summary of this book, even it just caught my attention, and it said, in a vast mysterious house on the cliffs near Dover. And this book is about a mother who disappears, so the father is trying to take care of, I don't know if they have multiple children, I think they do, and one of the daughters is doing strange things and eating chalk. And it says that this is a spine-tingling tale that has gothic roots but an utterly modern sensibility. And reviews for this one, because I do tend to look at reviews, are very mixed, which makes me even more intrigued to check it out, because some people adore this and others think it's bizarre and not in a good way, which makes me very intrigued. I'm hoping to read this book in July and one I'll mention in a few. We're reading for them for the Year of Horror Book Club, and I am so excited. Next is The Devil in Silver by Victor LaValle, and when I was looking up horror novels by Black authors, Victor's name kept coming up over and over again. So like Jennifer, I'm going to mention a couple books by him, but overall, if you've read any by him that was your favorite out of everything, definitely let me know and maybe I'll start with that instead. But this one sounded so absurd, and it's about a man who is sent to a psychiatric ward, and let me look at this to make sure I get it correctly. In the darkness of his room, on the first night, he's visited by a terrifying creature with the body of an old man and the head of a bison who nearly kills him. And when he goes and mentions this to the other patients, they're like, oh yeah, he like roams the halls at night. And I think they all band together to try and kill this creature. I have no idea if this is meant to just be pure horror or if it's meant to be kind of absurd horror and also funny, but it doesn't matter either way, because feel free to let me know if you feel this way or not, but when you read so many thriller and horror novels, all of the plot lines can really start to blend together. But it's been a while that I've read even just a short few sentence book summary, and I thought that is definitely unique compared to anything I've ever read. Next is The Good House by Tanara Reeve Dew. When I mentioned I was reading another book hopefully in July, this is the other one I'm hoping to read. Granted, I'm a slow reader, and I think this book is around at least 500 pages, I'm not sure, but I'm hoping to also finish this in July. This isn't a spoiler because it says this in literally every snippet of the book summary I've read about this book, but it's about a woman who's an attorney, I believe, whose son unfortunately dies by suicide, and after that traumatic event, she moves back to, or visits, I'm not sure which one, her grandmother's haunted mansion, it seems. And this one I'm almost intrigued by the lack of information I can find about it. Every little snippet or book summary I found about it, that's really all that it said. But if you go on Goodreads, the vast majority of reviews of this book are overwhelmingly positive. And the more I was reading, the more amazing things I heard about this author in general. So please let me know if you've read anything else by her. Next is, I should have mentioned this one after the last one by Victor, is The Changeling by Victor LaValle. This is about a wife who does something horrific. I don't know what it is, but the husband, and again, like his last book summary, I feel like I have to read it because it's so out there. I can't just recall it from memory. Her husband, Apollo, then begins a journey that takes him to a forgotten island in the East River of New York City, a graveyard full of secrets, and a forest in Queens where immigrant legends still live. So all of his books seem horrifying, but also very fantastical. I have a good friend, Steve, who has read a lot of his books and swears by him. So I'm really beating myself and also irritated at myself that I have not read a book by him prior to this. Next is The Quiet Ones by Brandon Massey, and this is about two sisters who, I think it's their father kills their mother, which is obviously very horrific. So at a very young age, they end up being separated, and it's told from the point of view by one of the sisters who grows up to be a successful investigative reporter at the Atlanta newspaper, and she's been trying to find her sister for years, and she finally finds out that she's at this place called The Sanctuary in a mansion in the very deep woods, and it's run by it's a reclusive clan run by a man named as Father, and anything to do with cults, any setting in the deep woods just makes me very excited. And finally, because this is the one I'm most excited about, so I wanted to save it for last, is The Gilda Stories by Joelle Gomez. I started watching an interview with Joelle about this book, and then I got so excited just from the first minute, but then I had to pause it because I didn't want to know too much before I go into it. But this is about a woman named Gilda who in the 1850s escapes from slavery and is longing for kinship, and she ends up going to a brothel and then has an induction into a benevolent family of vampires. And the reason I mentioned that interview, and I'll link it down below, although just a warning, I don't know if there are spoilers for the book, but either way, I highly recommend watching it because she talks about how when the book first was coming out and she was writing it, she was getting a lot of criticism because vampires are inherently seen as obviously very predatory, and so she was receiving criticism for taking something that's inherently predatory and having them also be black and also be lesbian. So it just sounds like an amazing book overall and like nothing I've ever read, and please let me know if you've read this without spoilers what you thought about it. Those again are just a snippet of the books I'm excited to read again. I'll have all of the articles linked down below. Please let me know, have you read any of these? these and you enjoy them. Are there any that you think I should be checking out first? Again, I hope you all are doing okay, and I'm gonna try and get on track, back on track at least somewhat with filming. So hopefully I will see you all next week. Bye.